Recently I've seen a lot of discussion about the Goku Black arc, specifically about how it ended. While a lot of people do love the arc, and some hate it, one controversial topic that I see a lot is about the ending. And it seemed to be a pretty common opinion too. For multiple different reasons, there are people that don't like the ending of this arc. And I agree, it makes sense why someone wouldn't like the ending. Whether it be the use of the Zeno button, the way that Zamasu was actually killed, or the fact that Trunks' timeline was erased, people had a lot of gripes with it, but that could have all been avoided if there was another way to defeat Zamasu. That's what I'm here to talk about today. The way he was defeated was pretty poorly written. Trunks randomly getting his sword out of nowhere, and somehow being able to destroy Zamasu's body, and then his entire timeline getting erased to defeat him. Yeah, Zamasu was immortal, but if we fix up the writing in the arc a bit, there were a lot more ways that Zamasu could have been defeated permanently, whether it be towards the beginning of the arc or the end. In this video, we'll be talking about some of the flaws of the writing from this arc. There are a good amount of issues with the writing here, so we'll be discussing those, as well as other ways that the arc could have ended, or ways that the arc could have been prevented entirely. And trust me when I say this, there's a good amount of different ways that this could have happened. We didn't need any Spirit Sword, we didn't need the timeline to be erased. We just needed some more polished writing, and preferably, smarter decisions from Goku and Vegeta. Had we gotten that, well, let's just say if that were the case, Trunks wouldn't have to live with a copy of himself in another timeline. So let's start by talking about how to defeat Zamasu, and I guess fuse Zamasu too, because they're both immortal. The big issue there is that they were pretty much unstoppable due to this immortality, but that doesn't mean that they were unstoppable. But there's a multitude of ways to stop him here. For one, the Mafuba could be used again. But wait, the whole reason it didn't work before is because they didn't have a seal for it, right? Well yeah, but it shouldn't really be hard to get another seal. Look at how Gowasu and Shin arrived. Why not have them travel back in time, get a seal, and bring it back to Trunks who could perform it again? To be fair though, the second time around, Zamasu would probably be on guard and it might be tougher to do. But it's not completely impossible. Another way is to wish for him to be defused. If future Namek still exists, they can just go there and wish for it. And if not, just as I said before, Gowasu still has his time ring, so why not just use that? Go back in time and get the Super Dragon Balls. Likely though, there's probably no way to find future Namek, and if there is, it might even be completely destroyed. But when you have a time ring yourself, does that really even matter? Sure, there's also the likelihood that Zamasu could have chased them, but if they were to do this covertly with Gowasu escaping, it could have been easily accomplished. Go back in time, get the Super Dragon Balls, or even find Namek here. Once you get them, wish for Zamasu to be defused. And even better, if you have an extra wish for Zamasu himself to be sealed. And by doing that, you then just have to kill Goku Black, and find some other way to contain Zamasu. Another way to defeat the fusion is to call Zeno, and while I don't particularly like this, it could have been done in a much less messy way. Rather than Trunks using the Spirit Sword, they could have just written it so that Goku remembered the Zeno button earlier on. He could call Zeno and have him erase Zamasu, before he merges with the universe. Sure, here there is still a chance that he might erase everything out of anger, but there's also the possibility that he spares everything else and only erases Zamasu, since he's not merged with anything yet. Well, besides himself. Those are some ways to defeat the actual fusion, but there's ways to stop him from fusing in the first place. See, the biggest issue was Zamasu's immortality. Even before they fused, he was annoying for the sole fact that they couldn't kill him. Obviously doing this would end the arc a lot earlier, and it wouldn't have merged Zamasu in the first place. So it makes sense why they didn't do it from a story standpoint. It would have been a bit anticlimactic. But in terms of the ways the characters act, there were many other smart things that they could have done. Zamasu was kind of like a brick wall, and Goku Black was kind of like a tank. Zamasu's the defense, and Goku Black's the offense. All they really needed to do was to defeat one of them, and then their problem would have been solved. In terms of defeating Goku Black and preventing the fusion, well, Goku could have killed him on his first visit. It wouldn't have been too tough, and it would have been the smart thing to do. But again, from a story standpoint, that wouldn't really work because it would end the arc right away. But if we're talking about later on in the story, there are ways to defeat him. After Vegeta's power boost, and that one scene from episode 64 where he's fighting Goku Black, they could have just had Vegeta easily kill Goku Black there. Up until that point where Goku Black decided to use his anger, Vegeta had a clear upper hand, and then Goku Black just gets a random ass pull, where for some reason he gets angry enough to make a scythe and cause a timeline rift to have other Goku Black clones come out of it. Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense. Plus it would mean Vegeta gets a win against the main villain. It would be realistic, and would give Vegeta the win that he desperately needs. Also, if Beerus wanted to help some more, well, he could have given some of his energy to Goku or Vegeta. We saw this in the Tournament of Power, right before when Universe 9 sent those assassins to Universe 7. A god of destruction is able to give their energy to a mortal, and even someone weak like that assassin was able to hold it, so it's not like Goku or Vegeta would have any problem doing that. Beerus could have easily given them some of his energy, and then against Goku Black, they could have pulled out that Hakai and used it against him. That would kill him and prevent the fusion. They would just need to find a way to defeat Zamasu, which wouldn't be too hard. They completely outclass him in power, so restraining him somehow and then finding a way to seal him wouldn't be too bad. And if we're talking about the manga version, well, Beerus wouldn't even need to lend his energy. Goku knows the Hakai there, even though it's a weaker version of it. If he used it earlier on against Goku Black, that would have killed him and prevented the fusion, destroying the offense, only leaving the defense behind. Speaking of Beerus, he himself could have come there and kill Goku Black. Again, they have a Kai with a time ring. If Beerus wasn't so lazy and actually did want to get involved, he could have easily stopped this, and not just towards the end of the arc, but in the first parts of it when they first met Goku Black. He was a threat to the entire universe and multiple timelines, so he'd be completely justified in getting involved here. Alright, let's forget the Hakai. The fusion could have been easily prevented, and as I mentioned before, that's one of the problems with the writing in this arc. It's almost as if they made Goku and Vegeta purposely neglectful. Had they fought with more care, the fusion wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. Of course, one of the biggest issues with this arc that a lot of people point out is the fact that Goku kinda seems stupid. To be fair, that's more of a problem with Super as a whole, but by far the dumbest thing in this arc was him forgetting the seal for the Mafuba. You can clearly tell that the whole point of him forgetting that is to extend the arc further on, but all it does is just make Goku look stupid. This could have been avoided if simply, Goku just remembered to bring it. Even the manga version does this better, where instead of forgetting the seal, he just grabs the wrong thing thinking it's the seal. But even then, wouldn't you want to be better prepared to fight against literal gods? Especially since they're threatening your universe and your timeline? It just seems careless. And Vegeta's not exempt either. Sure, him getting out of the time chamber and then fighting Goku Black was pretty cool. And I know this can be said for a lot of fights in Dragon Ball, but he had a perfect opportunity to end the fight early on. He clearly did catch Goku Black off guard and had an advantage in terms of power. Had he used that to its fullest, he would have won, easily. Had either of these two not made those choices, the fusion of Goku Black and Zamasu wouldn't be an issue because it wouldn't happen. If we get a bit more creative, there are other ways to prevent the fusion from ever happening, although they're way more unlikely than what I discussed before. For one, destroy the Potara earrings. Goku and Vegeta know what the Potara earrings are and what they do, and even then, either Gowasu or Shin could have pointed it out and had the idea to destroy them. It wouldn't be too tough. Goku or Vegeta would just need to catch either Goku Black or Zamasu off guard. Even destroying one earring is good enough. Even if they don't know that the two are going to fuse, this is a preventative measure. And it would be a pretty smart thing, although very unlikely as I mentioned. Another creative but very unlikely way to end this is just to have Gowasu or Shin force a fusion. Have Gowasu take one of his earrings off and sneak up behind Zamasu, forcing the two of them to fuse permanently, preventing Zamasu from doing anything else. Shin could have even done this too, or really anyone. Of course, this is a very unlikely method, but it would be a smart tactic, and would be pretty unique for the series. Gowasu partially sacrificing himself to fuse with Zamasu, saving the future. It would lead to other problems down the line because it'll be a half-evil fusion that's permanent, but hey, it's better than universal erasure. One more way to stop Zamasu and prevent the fusion, well, again, summon Zeno early. If Goku didn't forget about the button, he could call Zeno to erase Zamasu. And hey, Goku Black too for that matter. Okay, we covered some ways to stop Zamasu himself and to prevent the fusion. Let's move forward and discuss ways to defeat the fusion itself. Besides sealing him with the Mafuba, there seem to be other ways to seal people in Dragon Ball. Look at Elder Kai. Beerus is able to seal him in the Z-Sword. Either have Shin figure out a way to seal him, or have Beerus get involved and come to this timeline and seal him. This would be a way to stop Zamasu without figuring out some random way to kill him, since that was pretty much off the table. From a writing standpoint, another way to defeat him is to have him lose his immortality. The series itself kinda did show this. He didn't fully lose his immortality, but it lost its effectiveness. You could see this once he becomes that huge purple slime monster. Half of his body is basically dead. Well, at that point, they could have just explained it as him losing his immortality. Not just partially, but fully. It would mean that by fusing, he got himself immense power, but at the cost of his immortality. So he'd still be a pretty formidable villain. And even though I personally don't like the Spirit Sword, you could even still keep that in, and have Trunks just finish off Zamasu right there, without him merging with the universe or whatever. And it would make sense too. He merged with someone who wasn't immortal. And with the fusion being permanent, it could have easily just been explained as Zamasu screwing himself over. But as I mentioned, that's a solution from a writing standpoint, not some in-universe strategy that would require the writers to actually go through with that. And even though it's not ideal, it's still better than Trunks' timeline getting erased and basically negating all the work he's done. Another very unlikely way to defeat Zamasu is to have Spirit Fission come into the series early. I've seen this mentioned a couple times before. Of course, it wouldn't really be too helpful because no one really knew about it by that point, besides everyone on Yardrat. But when it got introduced in the Moro arc, a lot of people, myself included, realized that it could have been used to defeat a lot of enemies in the past. It is an incredibly overpowered technique. Since you could forcibly defuse people, obviously that would remove any sort of peril from the series. But imagine if Goku learned this in the Cell Saga. It would help stop Cell, it would help stop Boo, it would stop Zamasu, it would even stop Kefla later on. And once they eventually got to Moro, it would help against him. Of course, retroactively it didn't exist. But the whole point of this video is trying to come up with creative ways to end it. And when you think about it, it's kind of funny how overpowered that technique would be earlier on in the series. And since we're getting kind of crazy in this video with ways to end the arc, why not get even more meta? What's a way to stop the arc before it even happens? See, this is another one of my problems with the writing in this arc. Because the more you look at it, the more you'll see that this arc could have been stopped before it even happened. In multiple different ways. A preemptive strike of sorts. For one, have the gods react earlier. When Zamasu goes around killing the Kais, you would think at some point the Kais would notice that other Kais are dying in other universes, and other gods of destruction. Gowasu makes sense because it was a sneak attack, but you would think at some point a distress signal or something would be sent out. Like as a Kai from one universe is trying to fight Zamasu, some message gets out to the other Kais so they're prepared. Something like that. Another weird point is how lenient Gowasu was. He noticed that Zamasu was acting strange, and he had some pretty weird ideas about mortals. At some point he could just realize, damn, my student is kinda crazy, and figure out something to do with Zamasu so he doesn't go down this path. But there is one way to stop this arc from happening that's probably more effective than anything else. And I'm not talking about something later on in the arc that would help. I mean something that would completely stop it as is. Have fights go against GodTube's terms of service, so Zamasu can't watch Goku fight him. The video would have never been uploaded in the first place, and Zamasu wouldn't see it. Jokes aside though, this was obviously just a video for fun. Some of the things I said in this video are legitimate concerns that I have with the writing, but as usual with my discussion videos, most of it was speculation. Like I said before, you can't just end the arc right away, but I just thought it would be fun to go through and see what other points this arc could have ended at. And as we've discussed, there are plenty of ways to end this arc. Either before it starts, in the middle, or even at the end without erasing anything from before. All in all, this video is basically my way of saying, the ending of this arc kinda sucks. So it's nice to speculate ways to avoid that, even if some of them are pretty outlandish and would stop the arc before it even happens. Maybe one day I'll make a more in-depth video discussing all the flaws that I've seen in Super's writing. But let's end here for now in terms of this arc. So I want to know what you guys think. It is a discussion video after all. So let's start a discussion in the comments. What other ways do you think the arc could have ended, besides stuff that I listed here? How do you wish the arc would have gone if it went differently? And most importantly, what do you think of the arc overall? Do you like it as is, or do you think there were some stupid choices like I mentioned in this video? Leave any thoughts in the comments below. I'll be sure to check them out to see what you guys think. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notified about any future uploads that I have on my channel, including more videos like this one. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.